Welcome back to Detroit Next, the podcast and content channel all about the 2025 election here in Detroit. I'm Bryce Huffman with Bridge Detroit, and I'm joined by City Councilmember Mary Waters, who is a council member at large and currently running for re-election as an at-large council member. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. You've been out and about and you've been pretty active in this campaign season. Per Malachi Barrett, who covers City Hall, I want to ask everyone the same starting question. Who should be council president next?
Oh my goodness. Well, I can tell you there are probably a few people that are interested. Um, Certainly, I'd like to say that I hope that there's some at-large representation in one of those seats, either as president or pro tem.
Awesome. So let's talk about the at-large candidacy in general, right? So you've been on city council for years now, and you've had to be really vocal and active in each of the seven council districts. How does that
Right.
kind of shape your view of city government as opposed to before you were on the council?
Well, I wasn't on the council before. This is my first time being on council. I am a former state representative, though. And as a state representative, we did represent districts, even though our votes really affected the entire state. And it's the same thing with city council. You might be representing a district, but your ordinances, your vote affects the entire city.
All right. Can you tell me about a time when you voted on council for something that might not have affected directly where you live, but you felt was important for people across the city in different neighborhoods across the city?
Well, usually if for the most part, if I vote um against something, I don't believe that is good for the entire city, frankly. Those things that I voted for, um, even for example, down payment assistance, which was part of my $203 million housing initiative, then that affects the entire city.
Right. So let's talk about housing as a start. Housing in the city of Detroit, one of the big issues that people my age are really running into when they're trying to buy a house or when they've already bought a house is the property taxes. It catches a lot of people off guard with that additional cost. What is the council able to do kind of going into 2026 and beyond to reduce the burden of property taxes? And then obviously you have to account for where revenues are going to come from if we lower property taxes.
Now that's the operative word. Where will the revenues come from? And that has been our struggle. Even if we are able to lower property taxes by a mill or two, we can't go too far beyond that unless we identify other revenue streams. And we have not been able to do that. But each budget season, we've lowered property taxes by 1 mill or 2 mills. So that equates to about maybe on average $200 something dollars per year for the average homeowner. And I know that's something, but it's certainly not nearly enough. What I want to continue to do is to encourage our state legislators to take a look at an overhaul, a complete overhaul of property taxes in Michigan, not just here in the city of Detroit, because I know that there are other communities that are struggling as well. And we need our state legislature to do exactly that. Uh, because once they decide to do that, then they will allow us, they will certainly give us permission to look at other revenue streams.
Right. Short of changing anything at the state level, just here locally, what kind of solutions have kind of been proposed to at least ease that burden on Detroiters?
Well, some of the things that are being proposed happens to be, say, for example, entertainment tax. But guess what? We still need legislature approval in order to do that. But that is certainly a revenue stream that we could use if the state legislature will give us the enabling legislation. When it comes to Airbnbs, we need to be able to collect some of those taxes. And if in fact we were able to generate revenue from those two sources, then we can look at lowering our property taxes a few more meals.
Right. So when it comes to Airbnbs, I know a lot of different neighborhoods have kind of been on the fence about it. We kind of support the idea as an idea, but we don't want it next to us. We don't want these properties bordering up against our homes and schools and neighborhoods. How do you kind of reckon with that when you talk to your constituents?
Well, frankly, it's already happening in a lot of our communities. So I just think that we need to regulate them, and I want to make sure that the taxpayers receive some sort of benefit from these Airbnbs. Uh, we right now, one of my colleagues certainly has an ordinance that she is working on, and so I'll be taking a look at that to see what type of suggestions that are offered. um, it is something, especially now. What surprised me is that we have a number of Airbnbs in District 2. I was surprised about that. I thought that the majority of them were in District 5 and 6, but that is not the case. So I was surprised about that. But it could be because we have a lot of large homes in District 2, and people are taking advantage of those.
Yep, a lot of two-family flats. I
Yes.
Yep, I was definitely next door to one over the weekend, so I definitely understand that. Um, so let's talk about other ways that we can kind of generate some revenue in the city. So the entertainment tax is one that's been proposed a lot lately.
Mhm.
Property taxes are kind of the main way that we generate that revenue. What else can be done here locally, you think, that we're not necessarily looking at yet? What are some solutions that you've had kind of in the back of your mind that haven't been kind of brought forward fully yet?
Well, I mean, we want to lower some property taxes. We can increase some of the sales taxes. That certainly could be an option. When you go out to purchase, for example, some a new bed, you go out and purchase some new furniture and so forth. But of course, we still would need what? Enabling legislation. Much of what we need to do, we have to have enabling legislation in order to make those things happen. And I have to, I can't say, I cannot suggest, and I will not suggest increasing our income tax, not at this time. That is something that we'll have to take a very, very, very hard look at. You know why? Because people already, their income level is not where it should be. And so I don't want to go in and take another portion of that. Income tax is already too high. So that is why I have not even thought about that. And when I do think about it, it just kind of leaves my mind because I also understand that people are not making their income is not high enough as it is.
Gotcha, gotcha. Let's talk about community benefits for a second. Community benefits has been something that Detroiters have been talking to us about since we launched in 2020, and a lot this year as we've been hyper focused on the election. There's obviously the DCFC situation happening right now in Southwest. What can be done to strengthen community benefits ordinance in favor of Detroit residents?
Well, we can start by lowering the threshold. That's one of the things that we can
Talk to me
do.
about that. We heard that a lot, but can you get a little bit specific about why that matters?
It matters because then what will happen? Oh my, I don't know why my system went out. Are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, okay. All right. Um, the reason that it matters is the fact that we want when people go in to do those projects in neighborhoods in particular, we want people to be entitled to some community benefits. We do. And right now, the thing that really triggers it is if it's $75 million and above. Well, I don't believe that should be the case. I at least want to look at it for now being somewhere between 25 and $50 million. And if we have to start at 50 million, then that's okay. It depends on what my colleagues are willing to do. But I think that $75 million is too high. And let me tell you, we have a difficult time. negotiating with these developers, even getting something from the community for the $75 million threshold. So if you're on the north end, or if you're in District 3, and if you're doing a development project there, if it's $25 million, why not do something for the community? It is rare that you can get a developer say, okay, we know we're not at the threshold, but here's what we're willing to do on behalf of the community. Now you do have some developers that are willing to do exactly that, but it's not enough of them. So we need to change that ordinance. The other thing that I want to see, the issue that I've had, I want to see the makeup of that NAC change, Neighborhood Advisory Council. And the reason is that it just seemed to me that each time the community is outvoted, the deck is stacked against them. They come in with all of these wonderful suggestions, and then all of a sudden, they don't have the votes to support what they need. And that is an issue. So maybe city council needs more appointments. Perhaps we need to expand it so that the community will have more votes. But that is something that we must look at. If we're going to keep the knack, then we have to certainly revise that ordinance. We have to amend it.
All right. So let's move to something else that we have been hearing a lot from Detroiters. Let's talk about the land bank.
Oh
Uh,
boy.
yeah, over the summer at our Bridge Detroit Meet the Candidates forums, you often heard people complaining about the land bank, wanting it to either be completely abolished or reformed in some way. At this day and time, what do you feel is the best path forward?
Well, if I had my way, it would be abolished. If I had my way.
And
I
then would the
think,
city then manage the remaining properties?
oh yeah, yeah, and return the remaining properties back to the city. I think that they've gotten them down to a point where they're manageable by both our housing and revitalization department, along with our building and safety department. I believe that we can manage that. So for the remaining properties that we have, especially in that buyback program that they've created, I think I believe that we need to make sure that Detroiters have those properties that are salvageable, so that we can make sure that they become homeowners. We have more renters now than homeowners. We want to make Detroiters homeowners, and we need to identify funding to make sure that those properties are renovated, and we need to move Detroiters into those homes for people who want to be a homeowner. And then you have we have families too out there where their children need a backyard to play in. These are opportunities. This would be a tremendous missed opportunities if we don't take those 700. Land banks say they have about 700 homes uh, in the buyback program. People live in those homes. We want to help them remain in those homes. Then they say they have another 1,400 that can be renovated. We want to make sure that Detroiters can receive those homes, become homeowners. And shame on us if we do not do that. See, what the land bank has been masterful at, they have created unnecessary programs for themselves. When they sell those homes, we don't get anything from that. Oh, okay. So their job should have been to clear title and put the homes back on the tax roll, right? So that has been extremely slow, not fast enough, so that the city can generate some revenue from those property taxes, because that is our only option. What do they have? So they have a nice fat war chest themselves, and they continue to want the city to provide subsidies for them from our general fund. But this last budget, I removed the subsidies. We're not giving them any more subsidies. It makes no sense for us to do that. Taking monies from our general fund, giving it to them to support projects that they should not have in the first place.
All right. Staying on the topic of the land bank, one of the questions that we get a lot is why people who live next door to one of the vacant lots can't ever access it. It almost always they inquire about it. It ended up getting sold to a developer long after they first asked about it. Can you kind of go through what that process looks like and what in that process can be changed?
They, you know what? That process is in place. They are some people who own those side lots. I mean, the side lots that are next to them are supposed to receive first priority. I remember a lady, she was so upset. She reached out to me and she said she thought she had managed to purchase the side lot. She sent in her $100 like she was supposed to. And guess what? Later on, she says, I don't know what happened. I didn't receive the side lot. So I decided to reach out to the land bank on her behalf. And I said, what happened with the side lot right next door to her? And guess what happened to that side lot? It had been sold to Hans Farms. Now, what kind of sense does that make? Hans Farms, other developers receive those side lots. So we are not even recognizing, we're not even protecting our own program where we said residents get first priority. Now, I'm going to have to tighten that up some way if we can't get rid of this land bank. I mean, they're going to have to be penalized if they do not sell those lots to people who live next door. That is one of the reasons, too, that I want to go back to the state of Michigan, and I'm waiting for the resolution to be drafted by our legislative policy division to renegotiate the intergovernmental agreement. I don't want people who don't live in this city sitting on the land bank board. It makes no sense to me. How are they going to be sensitive to people here living here in this city? No, we have to change that and some other things as well.
All right, so let's switch gears just a little bit away from the land bank and on to authorities in general, right? So the city, like the land bank authority, there's the conservancies that are downtown, the downtown Detroit development authority. There's all sorts of these authorities that kind of own city property or have access to city land that residents don't really have a say in. What can be done to kind of give residents a little bit more of the behind the curtain look into those authorities and maybe open up some transparency about how those authorities operate in the city?
Well, I can tell you this, Team Waters, we've already discussed the fact that we're going to be taking a look at a number of the authorities that was approved by in conjunction with the administration and city council. Public lighting authority is another one that we're going to have to take a look at. We have to take, and we're going to do so one by one. Right now, the land bank happens to be at the top of our list, and it has been a tremendous effort just trying to make some things happen. So, but we have to take a look at the other authorities too. Public Lighting Authority, even GLEWA, the Great Lakes Water Authority. We have to take a look at all of those so that we can see, we can determine and renegotiate if we have to make sure that we're doing the best thing on behalf of Detroiters. That's what we have to do.
All right. Uh, this is a question that I've been wanting to ask all the at-large candidates because they are, or you are, because you're currently in the seat. You're responsible for all the districts. Which district in the city do you think needs to get a lot more uh, attention from city government going into the next mayoral administration?
Mhm. Yes, I am responsible for the whole D. That's what I like to say. And it certainly is an honor to be able to be responsible for that because I get to look at the entire picture. And I would say right now, I think there are two districts off the top of my head for different reasons who need our immediate love, and that's districts 3 and 7. When it comes to District 6, the love that they need, the water issues that they have, the odor issues that they have, yes, we need to do those things right away. And when I look at District 4, in terms of the population that they lost in District 3 and 4, then we need to make sure that we're looking at helping people to become homeowners as quickly as possible. That's why District 3 and 4 had to shift west because they lost so much population. So, yes, all of them need some help. Even when I drive through District 1, I see some things that need to happen. And uh, all the things that happen, people living in deplorable conditions, especially when you take a look at Real Token and what happened with them, those 400 some odd properties that they purchased through 165 different LLCs. I've asked the Michigan State Legislature to take a look at making sure that we're able to hold people accountable when they purchase bundles of properties. We need to, we must know who they are so they don't continue to hide behind those LLCs. Real Token happened to be in Florida, so they're sitting back, relaxing, collecting rent while our people live in deplorable conditions. That is why I'm happy too that I passed. My colleagues helped me. I sponsored two important ordinances: the tenants' right and the compliance ordinance. Listen, folks, if you're a landlord and you own all these properties, you can just get ready for it. We're going to hold you accountable. People who are renting from you, we're not going to allow them to live in deplorable conditions anymore. We're going to hold you accountable. We're going to have tenants to make sure that they put their dollars in escrow, and you're not going to be paid until you do the right thing.
All right. And then just one last question from me.
Mhm.
Going into a new mayoral administration means there's going to be some opportunities, there's going to be some challenges. What is one opportunity that you see in kind of a post Mike Duggan mayoral administration in Detroit, regardless of who wins the race? And then what's a challenge that you can kind of foresee that city council is going to have to work through?
One opportunity here is to build um, more income based and low income housing. We absolutely have to have it. An opportunity to make sure that we get a handle on what could happen with our homelessness. An opportunity to take another look at our procurement department to make sure that Detroiters, those Detroit based and headquarter businesses, are being treated fairly.
All right. And a challenge?
Dollars. That's the challenge. We've got to figure out how to bring those resources home. That means that we're going to have to work with our state and federal partners to ensure that that happens. And then we've got to be more creative in terms of how we can generate additional revenue ourselves. Now, those are challenges. We don't have the opera dollars anymore. We were able to do some wonderful programs like I managed to do the senior accessibility programs, the Next Step Up 313 for our young entrepreneurs, created the first veterans department. There are some things, down payment assistance for both first time home buyers, but we need additional dollars, and we've got to have people who are willing to and know how to fight on our behalf, both in Washington and in Lansing.
All right. Councilmember Mary Waters running for at large, which is your current seat right now. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you. It's such an honor to serve. Thank you, Detroiters. Love you.
All right. And good luck out there.
Thank you.